Hello everyone! It's Decepticon Jerry here once again with one special and dare I say amazing video for the channel. That's right, it's finally the 80th anniversary of the Railway series, May 12th! Okay, calm down. Alright, now that today's the day, I think it's time for me to tell you guys my personal story I have with Thomas and Friends and how such a special show was able to change my life forever. And I'm gonna tell you guys how I'm so grateful and thankful by the end of this video. Now, with all that out of the way, let's move on to the main event of this video. Now, I don't actually remember how exactly I was introduced to Thomas and Friends and what was the first episode I ever saw, but all I know that this history takes place all the way back to at least 2005 as far as I can remember. And yeah, pretty good times. I remember buying all the toys, and fun fact about me, even before I became a fan of Thomas and Friends, I still had a few toys. Yeah, many years ago, my grandma, well, my great-grandma specifically, bought me several few Thomas toys, specifically those from Wooden Railway, and the only ones I can remember would be the Wooden Railway Mighty Mac and Skarloey. I may have a few more, but those were the only ones I actually remember. And yeah, we jumped forward to, I believe, a few months or a year later, I guess. Anyway, and yeah, my first exposure came to a few VHS that I got. I remember owning at least 3 VHS, and one of them was the Calling All Engines special. Oh boy, this movie. Look, I was just a little kid, and I never saw this movie as boring as some people might think, but who cares? That was many years ago, and I have seen better nowadays. So yeah, it was 2006, 1 year after the 60th anniversary, and yeah, I got these 3 VHS, and I love them. Despite Calling All Engines becoming a snort fest in recent years, at least it was pretty enjoyable, and I love the hell out of that movie. No kidding. And even though I grew up mostly with the model hit era, which is a mixture of good and bad, but not boring. But even at the same time, I did have a few DVDs from the classic era, so at least I grew up with those classic seasons too. Even though I never watched them as much as the model hit eras that were airing at the time, but even then, classic Thomas, modern Thomas back then, I actually loved the hell out of it. It doesn't matter how old or new it was, I just love watching Thomas and Friends, day and night. And my great-grandma kept buying me all those take-alongs, wooden railways, and a few track masters, and my god, it was pretty special, man. I had a blast playing with those toys, and a few years later I also got a wooden railway table. Okay, it wasn't wooden railway, it was actually from Brio, but yeah, same thing. But at the same time, I was still falling in love with Thomas. There was another certain show that also caught my attention, and I am still a fan of it to this day. Of course, I'm talking about Transformers Animated. Yep. But even after I fell in love with the Transformers, nothing beat the Thomas the Tank Engine that I was obsessed with. And even after during that time, I started buying the new Transformers toys that were released at the time, and I even watched the Revenge of the Fallen movie, well, in DVD, actually. But even during that time, I still kept buying more Thomas toys. Hell, I even watched at least the first 3 seasons of the Sharon Miller era. And even though I liked it, I never loved it as much as the model seasons, but I still liked the Sharon Miller era. At least back then. Nowadays, yeah. I don't watch that Sharon Miller era. No. I still have the DVDs, but I'm not going to watch those. No. At least not yet. I'm gonna save those Sharon Miller experience for another video, I swear. At the same time where the Miller seasons were starting to come to an end and the Brenner era was among us, well, that was a time where I slowly started to move myself away from Thomas and keep my eyes, for the most part, with the Transformers, since during this time Transformers Prime was already airing, and I also fell in love with that show, but that's a retrospective for another day. But yeah, for a few years I wasn't in love with Thomas and Friends like I used to. Now, I still like the franchise, even back then, and I still watch a few DVDs from time to time, but for the most part, it was all Transformers and whatever the hell caught my eyes back then. Yep. Even this travesty caught my eye away from Thomas and Friends. 2014, this year was a wild year for me because while the Brenner era was going, I never watched it. I was completely oblivious to the Brenner era back then, since 2014 was, like I said, a wild year for me. The latest Transformers movie came out, that being Age of Extinction. This new Cartoon Network show called Clarence also caught my eye. And yeah, for the majority of 2014, Thomas and Friends almost felt like a part of me that wasn't there anymore. It almost felt like a curse. But in 2016, something happened that instantly caught my eye that somehow wanted me to just go back for a brief time for Thomas and Friends. And that movie was none other than The Great Race. Okay, despite what some people think, The Great Race wasn't that bad. And in fact, it was the reason that I came back for Thomas and Friends for a little brief time. And yeah, I learned more about the characters. That was my introduction for the Flying Scotsman. And all those international characters, yeah, they all caught my eye. And believe it or not, I actually bought the same year that Trackmaster Flying Scotsman. The first new Thomas toy I have since 2011. God, I'm old. But yeah, for a while, I actually thought that this was going to be my final Thomas item that I would ever get my hands on. And yeah, 2017 rolled around and I sold the rest of my remaining Thomas & Friends toy that I had, except for a Tickle on Thomas that I kept to this day. And that's basically it. For several more years, I kinda grew out of Thomas & Friends. I still kept watching the DVDs, but I never ever thought I'd buying any more toys. And, well, not enjoying the franchise like I once did. I remember buying that Big World Big Adventures DVD all the way back in 2019, and boy oh boy, that movie was insane. It almost did not feel like Thomas & Friends to me. But even after the franchise was hit or miss to me back then, at least I kept buying a few DVDs, specifically those from the Brenner era, and I started to watch episodes that were actually pretty good, and I enjoy them. And even though I wasn't buying any toys back then, at least I kept myself with the franchise for a bit by watching my childhood DVDs and remembering all the good times I had. Honestly, it actually did not felt the same. Because deep inside my mind, I asked myself, I wish I could experience Thomas like I used to back then. Just one more time. But then, in 2021, something special came to my life. I started to watch a YouTube channel run by none other than the Unlucky Tug, and oh my god, all the videos that I watch where he talks about the history, the characters, and the fact that all the characters were based on real life engines, something that for the most part I never thought it was possible. Like, 2021 and 2022 were the years where I started to learn and discover stuff from Thomas & Friends that I didn't know before. And I was amazed after learning about this. It almost felt like I was being a kid again. And yeah, by 2021 onwards, I started to watch more Thomas & Friends content by other YouTubers. I started to watch more of the classic era. I ended up buying a few more toys. Like, I ended up buying more toys in a way that I never had back in my childhood. It almost felt like a dream come true. Oh, and with that All Engines Go reboot, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was completely surprised about the existence of that show. Like, my reaction was like, what the actual hell is this? And yeah, even the show was pretty bad. I mean, it is bad. But I'm gonna say, after buying my first push ones, specifically Percy and Kana, well, after handling those toys for the first time, well, I was completely surprised about the quality and accuracy. And even though I wasn't that much of a fan of the Orange Go show, those die-cast toys, I actually fell in love with those. And I kept buying more and more until I had a decent amount of them and forming myself an Orange Go die-cast collection of all things. But even though I had a good Orange Go merchandise, nothing beat the quality of those original Thomas & Friends toys from the 2000s and early 2010s. Like, those toys will always be the superior ones to me, in my humble opinion, because, well, nostalgia, duh. And when 2023 came around, I decided to launch a YouTube series. And yeah, at first it was just Transformers reviews, but after a while I started to incorporate stuff from Thomas and Friends, and then I expanded by making reviews by other shows. And look at me now. It's 2025. The Railway series has just turned 80 years old, and man, with all the ups and downs of the Thomas & Friends franchise, and me coming back and forth with this franchise, I'm gonna be honest with you, it actually felt like a roller coaster ride. And even though I have a passion with other franchises like Transformers and more recently Rainbow Crew, I have to be honest with you guys, Thomas & Friends will always be number one. And I am so thankful for it. Even though Thomas is just a fictional show about silly talking trains, the connections it has with the real world and being a love letter towards trains in general, I have to say, it actually gave me the passion at making my own Thomas & Friends story, as well as creating my own characters that I really want to incorporate into the lore of Thomas & Friends. I am yet to start productions on these audiobooks, but the ones that I have currently listed that are coming soon are Thomas and Alora, Nellie the Kind Engine, Always Sunny, Two Engines Are Better Than One, and Percy and Brewster. I will eventually do more later on this year, and audio recordings of these stories will be released in a later date, so stay tuned. Thomas the Tank Engine has gone throughout multiple changes throughout these 41 years now. It has gone through several downgrades like any other long-running show out there. I'm looking at you, Star Wars! Sure, the show has gone bad in some seasons. The current owners sometimes has lost sight of what the show was and how it used to be. Sure, it may be a silly talking train show aimed throughout little kids, yeah? And yeah, seeing Thomas how it is in Orange Go, is pretty bad, I know, and it has to be the worst Thomas has gone through in his television history. But you know what? This freaking show, despite all the flaws that it had, it did so much more to me that I just can't put into words, I'll tell you that. Because without it, I would not be where I am today. And I know that I ain't the only one who has fallen in love with this show, because I know several people, if not millions of people out there right now who have fallen in love with this show as much as I did. And no matter how much Thomas has gone bad, us fans will always keep the legacy of Thomas alive in our own way. So, I would love to think that I speak for all the fans out there as I say, thank you. Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for igniting my interest in steam engines and dare I say trains in general. Thank you for all those important life lessons that you teach me in those classic seasons. Thank you for helping me appreciate the quality and the passion for model filmmaking. Thank you for giving us a space for like-minded fans like me to get along together and talk about this franchise. And more importantly, thank you, Thomas. Thank you for being my friend.
Picture a land where the sky is so blue, storybook land of wonder, magical island just waiting for you. Island of Sodor will make your dreams come true. Imagine a place where the sun always smiles, the valleys are green as can be. Friends that you love are all waiting for you. Island of Sodor will make your dreams come true. Children, follow the dream to a land of make-believe. The island of Sodor, magical land where dreams come true.
Follow the road that leads to your dream, over the hills and mountains. Look for the skies with stars in their eyes.